So by now, you have very clearly delineated the role of public sector and private sector in your economy. And a quarter of the public investment went to organize industry and mining, with the rest taken by transport and communication, roads, railways, bridges, irrigation, power, agriculture, village and small industries, and other basic services including education and healthcare.
Hey Grandpa, it's a great field till now. Finally, the scattered resources of my island looks to be in somewhat more structured and moving in the direction of efficient utilization with necessary infrastructure, heavy industry and capital getting established.
Now tell me one thing. Till now, you have defined role of private sector in some specific industries. But would that be enough? Don't you think more control on private sector is required in initial days to make sure that they are utilizing resources efficiently and in the national interest?
Sounds logical. These entrepreneurs are a little greedy breed. As I've seen my father, he's always bothering about money. These people might use resources in the way which would be of great interest to them, but that interest might not be in sync with national interest. Based on my experience by sitting in my father's factory, I can cite some examples which really do not gel with social welfare policies. They would like to replace workers with machinery wherever possible to bring more efficiency. After setting office in NCR, now my father is setting his factories everywhere in the country to become the national player with dominance in every region. In fact, he wants to be a monopolist, and he really wants to stop entry of other players by hook or by crook. And of course, he is always in a mood to take maximum money out of the customer's wallet instead of bothering about his paying capacity. With all due respect to my father, I really feel that it is cheating to the society. So, I would have definitely created one more new rule book to control each and every move of private sector.
Interesting observation. Indian policymakers were also thinking in the same direction. The main concern for them was the regulation of private sector investment and production. As a result of this came a new Bible on controlling each and every move of private sector to make sure their self-interest is in sync with the national self-interest, and they agreed to capture maximum is under control. The implementing regulation to regulate these activities was the Industries, Development and Regulation Act IDRA 1951, enacted within the broader context of IPR 1948. In the official circles, this Bible was also informally renamed as License Raj.
Cool, I am loving it. This is called king size control, to make masses happy and to keep classes under control, and to redistribute wealth. Please tell me little more details of this new Bible.
Sure, the IDRA sought to regulate industrial investments and production according to the planned priorities. Encourage small enterprise but keep a cap on the investment. This is to ensure that the labor force, which historically has been in plenty in India, is not suboptimally utilized. Achieve regional balance in industrial development so that there is no concentration of economic power. Spell out the circumstances in which government could take over the private firm's management to make sure that nation's interest is above anybody's self-interest. Regulate distribution and prices to make sure equity in affordability of goods and services by the disadvantaged section of the society. The registration and licensing provisions of the Act applied to all industrial undertakings, that is, the firms in the scheduled industries that met the criteria of a factory. By default, almost all undertakings in all industries came to the subject to licensing regulations. Following were the key highlights of IDRA regulation policy. All industrial undertakings have to register with the central government. No new industrial undertakings or capacity expansion in the existing industrial undertakings was permitted without prior license. A license specified the product and its maximum quantity that a firm or industrial undertaking or factory can produce. The central government also had the right to specify the minimum scale of plant and the location of production. The Act empowered the central government to control the prices and distribution of specified schedule industries. The government also used to decide the foreign investment allowance in particular industry. It is thus clear that IDRA 1951 gave the central government potentially very broad powers to regulate private sector industry. So, for obtaining a license, the criteria for qualification were to be stated in terms of investment in plant and machinery or in land, building, the number of employees, the quality and the cost of the product, foreign exchange required for import of plant and machinery. It is important to remember that these were potential powers so that the actual degree of regulation depended on the strictness with which the government chose to exercise the licensing authority and other powers given to it by the Act.
It means that, say, in my island, we can choose to issue license on demand, or we can choose a high rejection rate, take a short or long time to make decisions, even stipulate whether licensee would be entitled to import machinery and raw materials, and whether and in what proportion foreign investment would be permitted.
True. Suppose you have a paper bundle that needs to be put inside a rubber band. You can define the extent to which you can stretch the same to put more and more bundles, or you might not be interested in doing the same at all. Similarly, government can control private sector participation in various industries to the extent they think is appropriate as per national interest logic, or they may decide in few industries or in few economic activities not to control private sector at all. Because of this flexibility, initial licensing of domestic industry, import licensing mechanism as well as the release of foreign exchange for imports of equipment were relatively uncomplicated in the first few years after the IDRA came into force. But there is a problem in this approach of managing economic activity. Suppose number of paper bundles from the private sectors for new investments, production, imports opportunities starts increasing exponentially and the size of rubber band remains the same.
Clearly, if I'm using the same rubber bands, its number has to increase, otherwise there will be overstretches. Also, to avoid overstretches, I will not absorb any new paper bundle until I get more rubber bands.
Exactly the same happened with the government officials. The situation, however, changed when, on one hand, the demand on the licensing system in the form of applications for new undertakings, substantial expansion of manufacturing new articles, all of which required prior approval, began to increase exponentially. Correspondingly, the number of requests entertained by the Capital Goods Committee for foreign exchange also increased significantly. So, While this system of controlling all moves of private sector was working well, it has an inbuilt limitation of how much it can absorb. Beyond that limitation, this system would not get into overstretch, which might create impasse situation for the overall industrial activity in the economy. We will delve deeper into this argument once in the discussion of next era.